Heartwarming triumph, Black CEO exposed to disgrace, then discovers 900M investment in minutes. Samuel Reed, a rising star in the bustling tech world of Atlanta, stood there feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. A proud black entrepreneur, he had dedicated his life to building his tech startup from the ground up. The pride in his mother's eyes when he announced that he was taking his dream seriously drove him. But here he was, wrongfully accused of financial misconduct, whispers growing louder in the cafe where he used to find inspiration. He felt like a ghost among the living, sliding through life unnoticed, sleepless nights turned into months of anxiety. Is this what they wanted? To brand him a fraud? Stereotypes that clung to him like a second skin had taken over his narrative, overshadowing his talent and dedication. That cozy little corner in the park felt hostile now. The familiar laughter from the coffee shops was replaced by sidelong glances. Through it all, there was his grandmother, Louise. A retired schoolteacher, her words echoed in his heart. Never let them steal your integrity, Samuel. Work hard and let that shine through. Every Sunday, the family gathered around the dinner table. Laughter, stories, and love surrounded him like a warm blanket on a cold winter night. As they shared a meal, Samuel could feel the strength in their unity. His heart swelled while his grandmother spoke of resilience, and he hung on to her every word like a lifeline. This was his safe space. But the world outside lurked with shadows. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Clenching his fists, Samuel began to pore over his company's financial records late into the night. The flickering light from his desk lamp was his only company. He sensed the fire reigniting within him, a burning desire to uncover the truth. His tech team rallied around him, every late-night brainstorming session morphing from a path of despair to one of hope. Together, they were combating the stigma that threatened to sink his venture. They shared ideas like spark plugs in an engine of resilience, a united front against the tide of discrimination. Just when the doubts began creeping in, Samuel uncovered something astounding: a $900 million investment offer. His heart raced. This could save his company from the brink of disgrace and shatter the glass ceiling on discrimination within the industry. Hope pulsed through him, but uncertainty loomed, heavy like a storm cloud. Could this be the breakthrough they needed? As he prepared to speak at the industry summit, the air was thick with tension. He was ready to confront his detractors and shed light on the conspiracy trying to silence him. Standing in front of a sea of skeptical faces, his thoughts drifted to his grandmother, her unyielding faith bolstering his resolve. He thought about how far he had come and the battles he had fought, not just for himself but for everyone burdened by systemic injustice. As he stepped forward, the hum of anticipation from the crowd filled the hall. Samuel took a deep breath, ready to reclaim his narrative. Would this be his moment? Samuel faced the sea of skeptical eyes, his heart thrumming in his chest like a caged bird desperate to fly. He reached for the microphone, feeling the cool metal against his palm, as if it were a lifeline pulling him from the depths of despair. The chatter subsided, and everything around him faded away. In that moment, it was just him, the stories of his family, and the hope surging within him. Thank you all for being here, he began, his voice steady despite the tremor in his heart. I stand before you not just as a CEO, but as a son, a grandson, and a believer in integrity and perseverance. The crowd seemed to lean in, some frowning, some curious. He felt a spark of determination ignite in his gut. He dove into his story: the sleepless nights, the harsh whispers echoing in quiet corners, the weight of false accusations pressing down on him. He revealed the truths behind the allegations, illustrating how systemic injustices have woven themselves into the fabric of industries for too long. Each word he spoke was a push against the tide trying to drown him. "I've learned that darkness can blind us, but it can also reveal our true strength," he asserted, looking at familiar faces in the audience who had, at one time or another, doubted him. "For every bit of pain and every stereotype, I vowed to rise. To fight not just for myself, but for everyone affected by discrimination in this industry." The crowd shifted, uncomfortable yet intrigued. The power of his words carved out a space for connection, a fragile but present thread that could unite them. He revealed the incredible offer, the $900 million investment that stood not just as a lifeline for his startup, but as a beacon of hope for the future of Black entrepreneurs. Faces began to change in the crowd, skepticism morphed into intrigue. "This investment represents a chance for all of us," he continued, emboldened by the subtle shifts he observed. "A chance to show that hard work, resilience, and integrity can triumph over prejudice. We can be the change makers. We can build a community where talent isn't overshadowed by race." As he spoke of the innovation his company could bring, ideas flowed like a rush of water breaking through a dam. One by one, his colleagues nodded in agreement, their belief in him rekindling. The moment felt electric, and for the first time since the allegations surfaced, he felt the wind brushing against his back, pushing him forward, but just as Samuel's energy soared, a voice broke through the tension. "What makes you think you can handle such a monumental investment?" It was a question coated in cynicism, a challenge hurled from the back of the room. The audience went silent again, eyes flicking back to Samuel, waiting for his response. Samuel took a moment to breathe, steadying himself against the wave of doubt that threatened to crash over him. He thought of his grandmother's unwavering strength, the lives they had touched, and the future he was fighting for. Would he back down? No, this was the moment he had been waiting for. "Because I know how to lead with vision and purpose," he replied, firm and unwavering. "Because I have a devoted team fueled with passion, and a community ready to support our mission. Together, we'll turn doubts into possibilities." As he finished speaking, a wave of electricity filled the room. Some began to nod, others murmured, and an undeniable shift took place. Hope sprang back to life. But as Samuel stepped back, he felt the weight of one question hovering above him. Could he truly convince them? Could this investment not just save his startup but turn the tide for his community? With the sound of applause ringing in his ears, he knew one thing for certain: this was only the beginning. What awaited him beyond the applause could change everything. Would the investment come through? Would he face more challenges ahead? The moment of truth was closing in. As the applause slowly faded, Samuel stepped down from the stage, heart racing. The air was thick with anticipation, blending hope and skepticism like two colors on an artist's palette. He tried to catch his breath, but the weight of the moment pressed down on him, turning exhilaration into a dizzying mix of anxiety and expectation. That he moved through the crowd, feeling eyes on him, watching, assessing. Some faces broke into smiles, a few extended hands reached for him in solidarity. He shook hands, exchanged nods, but the doubts still lingered in the ethers. What if this was just a moment, a fleeting illusion of support? What if he walked away today without any real change? "Samuel!" called a voice from behind. It was Jenna, his closest confidant and chief marketing officer. She rushed up to him, her face flushed with excitement. "Did you see how they reacted? You turned it around. You really did." A small smile crept onto his face, but it felt fragile. "They still have questions, Jenna. That one critic in the back, he plants a seed of doubt, and it can spread. I can't ignore that." Jenna put a hand on his arm, grounding him. "You took a risk by sharing your story. You made it personal. That's what resonated with them. They need to hear from you, not just the CEO, but Samuel, the young man who's fighting for his family and the community." Samuel appreciated her words more than he could express, yet the unease wouldn't lift. He needed to follow through. "Let's set up meetings with potential investors. I want to strike while the iron is hot," he declared, determination flickering back to life. As they navigated through the crowd, he began to overhear pieces of conversations. Some were hopeful, others critical. It was a cacophony of emotions, and he felt both the weight of responsibility and a glimmer of possibility stirring within him. Maybe today wasn't an end, but rather a stepping stone. The pair stopped near a large window overlooking the bustling streets. The sun was setting, and the golden light poured into the room, casting a warm glow around them. Jenna turned to him, her expression serious. "You know, it's okay to feel overwhelmed. You're fighting for something much bigger than just your company." As Samuel stared out into the horizon, he let her words sink in. He thought about all those who had supported him along the way, those who believed in his vision enough to wait during the storm. "It's not just about the investment," he finally said, voice steadying. "It's about what it represents, a shift in the narrative, an opportunity. If I can harness that." Before he could finish, a figure approached, breaking Samuel's reverie. It was George, one of the board members who had previously shown hesitation. The man's brow was furrowed, and Samuel braced himself for more skepticism. "Samuel," George said, pulling him aside, his voice low. "That presentation was impressive. But I'd still like to know how you plan to sustain this level of momentum. We need clarity, a detailed roadmap." "Absolutely," Samuel replied, meeting the challenge head-on. "We're drafting a comprehensive plan that includes contingencies and milestones. I want to show investors we're prepared for growth, not just survival." George nodded, but his expression lingered between doubt and curiosity. "I hope that's true. Because this could be your last chance to turn things around." Samuel felt a chill at the thought. Was this opportunity truly that fragile? As the conversation unfolded, Samuel's gaze drifted back to the crowd, to the flicker of hopeful glances and whispers of potential. The air felt charged with energy, a mixture of fear, aspiration, and hope. He needed this moment to transform, to spiral into action. But could he convince everyone that together, they could really build the future he envisioned? With a deep breath, he felt his resolve harden. "Let us get to work." As he turned back to the crowd determinedly, his thoughts danced around the possibilities and perils ahead. The room buzzed with potential, and Samuel knew deep down that this was only the start of a much larger battle. But as he stepped forward, a new question lingered: would he discover the way forward, or would the weight of expectation crush his dreams before they even took flight? The rhythm of the room shifted as Samuel walked back into the crowd. The once distant hum now felt closer, almost palpable. The conversations swirled around him like leaves caught in a warm breeze. Hope mingled with uncertainty. Each individual seemed to pulse with their own fears and dreams, and for a moment, he felt tethered to them all. "Hey, can we grab a minute?" Jenna pulled him slightly aside, her tone urgent but soft. Her eyes sparkled with that familiar drive, the one Samuel had come to rely on in moments of pressure. "I just got off the phone with a few investors interested in meetings. We need to fine-tune your pitch quickly." "Now?" Samuel's brow furrowed. "I can barely think straight after that presentation." Jenna smiled, a reassuring light in the sandwich of stress they both felt. "Exactly. It's fresh in their minds. Let us capitalize on it while the fire is still hot." He looked out across the room at faces waiting, some still wearing expressions of doubt while others were sparkling with admiration. The weight of their anticipation pressed heavier than before, and it made his stomach churn. "Okay, but we can't rush it. We need a solid plan." "Agreed. Let us brainstorm." They moved to a quieter corner, where Samuel could gather his thoughts. The hum of the crowd faded slightly as they honed in on strategies and pitches that would emphasize not just numbers, but the heartfelt mission behind his vision. As they sketched a plan on a notepad, a wave of adrenaline surged through him. The relentless pressure didn't just chafe, it fueled an ember of resolve deep within. With Jenna's sharp insights guiding him, the conversation shifted from hesitations to excitement. We need to showcase the community impact alongside profitability, he suggested, the fire of inspiration churning in the pit of his stomach. We're not just selling a service, we're offering hope. Exactly. Jenna's eyes brightened. Investors want to feel that emotional connection. We need to connect the dots. If our company grows, lives improve. It's a win-win. Feeling encouraged, Samuel started to sketch out stories of families lifted up, children inspired, futures reclaimed. Each story ignited a flicker of strength, and he leaned into it. A vision of what could be shimmered in the periphery of the overwhelming chaos. Suddenly, the moment felt electric. You know, Jenna, we could create an emotional montage as part of the presentation. Personal testimonials, visuals from the community. Yes. Let us make it personal. She exclaimed, the enthusiasm bubbling over. The more they discussed, the more alive he felt. Samuel understood in that instant that his challenge wasn't just about numbers on a balance sheet or a well-rehearsed presentation. He wasn't alone in this. Underneath the gleam of the hustle were the hearts of those he aimed to support. With a shared smile and pumping adrenaline, they set off into the crowd to connect with potential investors, each step more confident than the last. Yet, just as they prepared to dive in, an unsettling figure stood at the edge of the crowd. Samuel caught sight of the critic from earlier, arms crossed and a sneer on his face. A shadow flickered back in Samuel's mind, a stark reminder of the doubts threatening to creep in. Would they be able to convince him of their vision? Heart racing again, Samuel turned to Jenna, determination flooding his veins. We have to be ready for the tough questions. We need to show them not just hope, but tangible paths forward. Jenna nodded, but the creeping anxiety lingered. As they approached groups of investors, Samuel felt the precarious balance between hope and trepidation shifting under his feet. He knew he had to push through the fear, but a doubt whispered in the back of his mind. Could they break through the naysayers? As he opened his mouth to begin, a flicker of uncertainty passed, blurring the lines of confidence. What if this was all just a mirage? Would inspiration be enough to overcome the walls surrounding him? Would he truly find a path forward? Samuel took a deep breath, drowning out the whirl of noise that filled the room. He knew he had to focus. The weight of uncertainty pressed heavy on his chest, but Jenna's unwavering presence beside him reminded him that he was not alone in this fight. Let us go, Jenna said, giving him a gentle nudge forward. Her voice carried an undeniable energy, something he clung to as they began their approach. Together, they navigated through clusters of individuals engrossed in conversations, shifting his attention away from the sneering critic lingering nearby. As they reached a small group of investors, Samuel took the lead. Thank you all for being here today, he began, his voice steady yet filled with urgency. I want to share something special that goes beyond just numbers. He started weaving the stories he and Jenna had brainstormed, tales of struggling families who had benefited from their services, children inspired to dream bigger, futures opened in ways they hadn't expected. With each word, he painted a vivid picture that was tangible, real, and undeniably moving. Jenna chimed in, it's not just about profitability, it's about creating a legacy. When our community thrives, everyone wins: investors, families, and the brand itself. The faces of the investors began to shift, a flicker of interest igniting within their initial skepticism. Samuel held on to that flicker, a lifeline pulling him deeper into the conviction of his vision. With every story, he saw the nods of agreement, the growing smiles. He was beginning to move beyond mere surface-level talking points. We're not simply after financial returns, Samuel emphasized. Our aim is a model that disrupts the status quo, one that gives power back to the people. The critics still hovered on the outskirts, but Samuel's focus stayed on the investors. He could feel their ambivalence giving way to intrigue. Laughter and comments of affirmation floated back to him, pushing away the apprehensions that had held him captive just moments earlier. Then, as if summoned by fate, one of the investors, a woman with sharp features and a piercing gaze, leaned in. What about the competitive landscape? You're up against giants. How will you differentiate yourselves? The question landed like a lead weight, but instead of panic, Samuel felt an unexpected surge of adrenaline. "Excellent question," he said, a spark igniting in his voice. "We embrace our unique position, our connection to the community's heartbeat. We're agile. We listen. We adapt. While others see numbers, we see faces." Samuel glanced at Jenna, their eyes locking in a moment of shared tenacity. He continued, bolstered by the mutual trust. "We're not just trying to capture a market share, we're forging a movement that brings lasting change. And those who join us aren't just investing in a service, they're investing in something that nurtures humanity." The room responded. Heads nodded, murmurs rippled through the crowd, and even from the corner of his eye, Samuel saw that the critic's frozen expression had loosened, if only slightly. It was enough for Samuel to fuel his momentum. As he finished his pitch, the energy was palpable, sparking hope anew. The investors were leaning into him now, their expressions shifting to one of genuine curiosity. But that nagging voice still lingered, urging caution. Could they truly swing this momentum? Jenna suddenly tapped his arm, refocusing his attention. "Look! That's Michael's group heading over," she whispered excitedly. Samuel's stomach lurched. It was the kind of luck he had been hoping for, but what if the criticisms resurfaced? As Michael and his group approached, excitement coursed through him. Would they see the potential that he had barely dared to imagine? Would tonight mark the turning point he desperately needed? The moment hung in balance, a heaviness of anticipation enveloping them. Samuel felt he was on the precipice of something life-altering. He just had to let go of the fear. But as he stood there, a resounding thought struck like an alarm bell. Who would be the first to raise their doubts this time? What if tonight could crumble everything he had built? As Michael approached, Samuel could see the curiosity etched on his face, intermingled with a hint of skepticism. It was a look that Samuel had grown accustomed to, but he couldn't shake that underlying knot in his stomach. He had prepared for every possible question, but doubt was a tenacious shadow. "Samuel, right?" Michael greeted him with a firm handshake. There was warmth in his tone, but Samuel felt the weight of expectations looming above. "I've heard a lot about what you're doing. Jenna, it's good to see you." "Thanks, Michael," Jenna replied, her smile genuine and bright. She helped anchor Samuel, making the room feel just a little less overwhelming. "Let's cut to the chase," Michael said, glancing at his peers, who encircled them. "You're competing in a tough market. What gives you the confidence that your idea will thrive?" Samuel squared his shoulders, drawing strength from Jenna's unwavering support. "Michael, I completely understand your concern. We're in a crowded space, but we're not trying to fit into the mold. Our approach is radically different. We establish deep-rooted relationships and adapt to our community's needs. We're not just a service, we're part of something bigger." A fellow investor leaned in, arms crossed skeptically, and chimed in, "That sounds great in theory, but can you really deliver? What's your plan when the competition fires back?" Samuel's heart raced. This was the moment to flip the narrative. "We've already begun testing our model in several neighborhoods. The feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. Families are not only utilizing our services, but they're also becoming part of our mission. We're building a movement together. Our customers are the advocates." Jenna nodded enthusiastically, adding, "When you invest in people, they invest back into the brand. It's a cycle of trust that drives not just loyalty, but growth." A flicker of interest crossed Michael's face, but it quickly resettled into cautious neutrality. Their audience was watching intently, waiting for the next pivot, the next piece of resistance to challenge. Samuel felt the eyes of the critic burning into him still, and with that, a surge of vulnerability emerged. But then a soft voice broke through the tension, "Tell us more about those families. What does success look like for them?" With renewed determination, Samuel began sharing the testimonies. Families who now had a safe space to thrive, children learning leadership skills, a community revitalized through connection. Success for them is more than a financial metric. It's about opportunities to change their future, he explained passionately. As he spoke, he caught glimpses of empathy blossoming within the investors' expressions. They were leaning in, genuinely engaged now. For the first time, Samuel sensed a shift. This was no longer just a pitch. It felt like he was allowing them a glimpse into his heart, into his dream. As they wrapped up, Michael stood silently for a moment, his eyes scanning the room. "Okay, I'm intrigued," he admitted, an unexpected smile creeping onto his face. "But here's the thing: you need to prepare for pushback. Not everyone will support this." "I welcome pushback," Samuel replied, grinning. "I know it means we're disrupting something. Let's make it a conversation, not a confrontation." With the atmosphere lightening, Jenna squeezed Samuel's hand, pride radiating between them. He could almost feel the shift of the tide. But just as he began to entertain the notion that they could turn the evening around, the critic cleared their throat loudly, capturing the room's attention once more. "Words are easy, Samuel. Prove to us you can deliver on the promise." The challenge hung heavy between them, a gauntlet thrown down. Samuel's heartbeat quickened. He suddenly realized that this was about to get a lot harder. In a moment that felt like everything was teetering on the edge, he wondered what sacrifices would be needed to show everyone that he could truly manifest his vision. Would he be ready to make those sacrifices? Tonight was far from over, and the path ahead was fraught with danger. Samuel took a deep breath. The challenge sat heavy on his shoulders, but if he faltered now, all would be lost. He glanced at Jenna, who offered a soft, reassuring nod. Her silent support was a balm against his rising anxiety. "Prove it," he thought, a mantra that twisted his stomach. Those words echoed in his mind as he shifted his focus back to the group. The eyes that had once harbored doubt were now sharp, waiting for action. "Let's talk numbers," Samuel said, summoning every ounce of courage. "Our pilot program shows a 40% increase in community engagement, and that translates into referrals. We're not just a company existing in a vacuum, we're a lifeline. Families are seeing changes, and that is measurable." He could sense the investors shifting in their seats, interest peaking. But he wasn't finished. "You want examples? Let me show you a story." Samuel pulled out his tablet and swiped to a series of images. "This is Mia, a single mother in our program. When she first came to us, she was struggling. But now, with access to resources and support, she has taken a leadership role in her community. It's not just her life that's changing, it's a ripple effect." As he spoke, the room fell silent, absorbed in Mia's journey. He showcased more faces: children smiling, families collaborating, communities thriving. Each image was a testament to his mission, a reminder of the very heart of his purpose. "Yes, words are powerful," Samuel continued, passion igniting his voice. "But so are the people behind them. We're not here to sell a product, we're here to reshape lives." When he finished, he looked around the room, catching glimmers of hope reflected back. Yet, he also saw the critics still poised, arms crossed defiantly. It was a reminder that their battle wasn't yet won. "I hear you, Samuel," the critic spoke, tilting their head slightly forward. "But inspiring stories can only get you so far. What's your plan for real, quantifiable results? Investors want a guarantee, something concrete." In a moment of clarity, Samuel remembered a line from his mentor. "Success is not just about winning the race, it's about building the track. We've created partnerships with local businesses who believe in our mission. In 2 months, we're launching a series of workshops that will increase skill sets in the community. Imagine local entrepreneurs supported by their own people, cultivating their growth instead of relying on distant entities. That's the stake we're holding," he said, his voice steady. Michael leaned forward, clearly processing Samuel's words. "You have a compelling vision, but investors need to see a future in the numbers." "I understand that," Samuel replied, energy brewing inside him. "We're currently in talks for grant funding and community sponsorships. We're building a financial blueprint that goes beyond the bottom line. This is about values as much as dollars. The atmosphere in the room shifted yet again, the tension softening as more people leaned in, intrigued by his vision for both intimacy and growth. Jenna smiled wider, a soft glow of pride shining in her eyes. Samuel felt a rush of warmth from her, a reminder of what they were fighting for, but just when he thought the tide was turning, the critic spoke again, their voice tinged with doubt. None of that guarantees success, Samuel. You're asking us to invest in an idea. What if it doesn't deliver? The question hung in the air, thick and impenetrable. Samuel's mind raced. He had come so far, yet still, there was this mountain to climb. What would he risk to solidify their dream? What vulnerabilities could he expose to prove that they were worth the investment? He felt the weight of uncertainty creep in again. But there was no turning back. What if I told you I'd put my entire savings into this endeavor? He challenged, the words rolling off his tongue before he had fully processed them. Gasps echoed in the room, eyes widening in shock. Samuel's heartbeat thundered in his chest. Had he really just said that? The risk was daunting, but it felt like a true declaration, a commitment to his vision, to those families depending on him. Now, he was all in, but what would that really mean? Would it be enough to turn the tide in their favor? The crowd shifted again, murmuring among themselves, and Samuel wondered if this bold move would solidify faith in their mission or send it crashing down. Only one thing was certain: he was now standing on the precipice of a decision that could change everything. Would he have the strength to face whatever consequences lay ahead? The murmurs swirled in the room like a storm, a mix of disbelief and curiosity. Samuel felt every pair of eyes on him, dissecting his bold declaration. A lump formed in his throat. Had he just crossed a line one he could never return from? Jenna shifted slightly, her lips parting as if she wanted to say something, to comfort him. But Samuel could see the worry etched on her face, her brows furrowing with concern. He didn't want to let her down. Not now. Are you serious? One investor finally stammered, a hint of admiration breaking through the shock. Absolutely, Samuel replied, his voice steady. This means committing everything I have. I believe in what we're building, and I want you to see that too. It's more than just money, it's about changing lives. For a moment, silence reigned. Then, slowly, the critic unfolded their arms, the tension in their features easing, just a little. It's a big risk you're taking, Samuel. But maybe, just maybe, that kind of commitment is what it will take to convince others. The thrill of hope flickered in the room, sparking something new. If you're all in, maybe we should consider backing you. But we need to see a solid plan, real metrics. You can't rest on goodwill alone. The energy shifted again, the room transforming from a chamber of doubt to a space filled with budding possibility. Samuel could feel the air thickening with anticipation, like a spring day promising warmth after a long winter. Of course. I'm ready, he affirmed, adrenaline coursing through him. Our tracking methods are in line with our values. What we aim for is measurable. We'll report back monthly. You'll see the growth. You'll meet Mia and their stories firsthand. Jenna's smile widened, and Samuel felt a spark of courage rekindle. He motioned towards a nearby projector. Would you like to see how we visualize this journey, our roadmap? The investors leaned forward, intrigued. Samuel clicked through slides that presented bold visuals of their projected milestones. He highlighted community workshop attendance, the response from local businesses, and how every contact progressed to genuine stories of improvement. Hopeful images appeared, Mia mentoring young teens, workshops buzzing with energy, entrepreneurs setting up booths at local fairs. When he finished, he paused, looking into each investor's eyes, searching for any flicker of belief, any hint of support. This is an investment not just in an idea, but in a community that is ready to thrive. When you invest in us, you're investing in people and they're worth every penny. The room erupted in a flurry of discussions, voices overlapping in excitement. A few even started jotting down notes, their pens scratching furiously against paper. Samuel absorbed it all, heart pounding with a cocktail of hope and fear. The critic cleared their throat, finally breaking through the noise. "I have to admit, Samuel, you've overcome my doubts with that presentation. I'm in. I'll match your investment." Gasps filled the room again. The tide had definitively turned. Samuel felt relief flooding through him but couldn't shake the weight of uncertainty. Surely, this was just the beginning. As discussions heated up, Jenna reached over, squeezing his hand. "You did it. You really did." But Samuel's mind raced with new questions. What if this opportunity opened the floodgates to larger challenges he'd never anticipated? He glanced at the projector, where bold promises and uncertain futures flickered against the screen. With every inch forward, would he truly be ready to carry the weight of so many dreams? "Ladies and gentlemen," Samuel began, his voice firm but brimming with emotion, "what if I told you this is just the first step? What if we could take this further across states, communities, changing entire landscapes? Can you imagine that kind of impact?" The room fell silent once more, captivated by his words, hanging on to the edge of uncertainty. A delicate balance lay ahead: risk and reward, triumph and turmoil. Would they still believe in him when they left this room? Would they stand with him as he ventured into uncharted territory? In that moment, Samuel knew he had opened a door. But would he find the courage to step through it, knowing the journey was just beginning? The conversation pulsed with energy, each voice buzzing with excitement about Samuel's vision. He could see the interest growing, fueled by the momentum he'd started. But beneath that excitement was a nagging worry: could they handle the responsibility that came with this? Jenna sat beside him, her enthusiasm contagious. "You opened their eyes, Samuel. You have to keep pushing," she urged, her eyes sparkling with belief. He nodded, though his mind was a whirlwind. He hadn't just put his money on the line, he had tied his dreams to the fates of countless families. Each life impacted mattered. Mia's story wasn't just a highlight, it was a beacon of hope. A hand shot up from the back, interrupting his thoughts. "Samuel, we need to talk logistics. How quickly can you get this moving?" The question nudged him into focus. "We've already got partners in place, a network of local support eager to collaborate. I can have our first workshops up and running within the month." A murmur of approval rippled through the investors. Samuel could hardly believe it. Just minutes ago, there were doubts. Now, visions of progress danced in the air. It felt surreal, yet liberating. Still, a tiny voice whispered questions that gnawed at his confidence. What if he wasn't enough? "Your ask is significant," another investor chimed in, "but investment isn't just about the numbers, it's about trust. We're putting faith in you. Can you rally the community around this?" The weight of those words hung in the air. Trust. It wasn't given lightly, especially not in a world fraught with skepticism. "Absolutely. I believe in this community, and they believe in our vision. They've seen what we can achieve together." He could picture Mia, leading a group of eager kids, their eyes filled with dreams. He'd prove he was ready. But this was a pivotal moment, he had to show them that the people behind the numbers had the fire to create change. As the conversation swirled around him, Samuel felt a wave of assurance wash over him, pushing out the shadows of doubt. "Let me introduce you to Mia now. She's the heart of this project. She embodies what we stand for." Before he could finish, Jenna squeezed his hand tighter. Encouraged by her support, he gestured toward the door. "I'll bring her in. Just give me a moment." The investors exchanged nods, anticipation climbing as Samuel hurried out of the room. As he moved down the hall, he felt the briskness of the polished tiles underfoot, each step driving him deeper into resolve. He found Mia in a small waiting area, her eyes lighting up when she saw him. "Did it go well?" she asked, her hopeful grin enough to melt his lingering anxiety. "Better than I imagined," he said, then motioned for her to follow him. "They want to meet you. They need to see that you are part of this journey, a living testament to what we're trying to accomplish." As they walked back, Samuel couldn't shake the weight of the moment. This was her chance to share her voice, her story. What would they think of her? What if they didn't see the value he saw? Mia stepped confidently beside him. "I trust you, Samuel. No matter what happens in there, we're doing this together." Her faith gave him strength, so he took a deep breath before entering the room again. The atmosphere felt charged, alive with potential. As he introduced her, the investors leaned forward, their interest piqued. "This is Mia," he began, feeling an undeniable spark of hope. "She's the reason we're all here. She represents everything we can achieve." Just as Mia opened her mouth to speak, the ground beneath them trembled, a literal shaking that sent fear into the hearts of those gathered. What had they stepped into? Did this quake signify the start of something unexpected, or would it unravel everything they had worked for? The tremors shook the building, rattling the confidence in the room. Samuel's heart clenched, and for a brief moment, doubt gripped him. Had they solidified their path only for it to crumble now? Yet, as the tremors echoed off the walls, Mia straightened her back. "This is just a little shake, right? We've faced bigger challenges together," she said, her voice unwavering. Her spirit was electric. Samuel looked at her, truly seeing the resolve shining in her eyes. The crowd, once frantic, began to settle, sensing her strength. Samuel took it as a sign. "Exactly. We stand stronger together, no matter the quake," he said, finding his footing again. The tension eased as laughter occasionally broke the uncertainty, like sunlight breaking through gray clouds. Mia stepped forward, confidence radiating from her. "I'm here to prove that we not only survive challenges, but also thrive despite them." She took a deep breath, gathering the room's attention. "When I came to Samuel, I was in desperate need, a single mother trying to make ends meet. But now, I'm a leader in my community. And it's because of the support I found within this team." Samuel watched as murmurs of approval rippled through the crowd. "I've seen how your support can make waves," she continued passionately. "Countless lives are transformed because when we invest in people, we invest in a brighter future for everyone." With each word, she wove their collective narrative, the optimism arcing higher that he felt an aura of communion form around them. Everyone was eager to connect. He sensed the shift, skepticism was melting away as spirits ignited throughout the room. Questions began flying from the investors' lips, intrigued by Mia's transformation. "What's the next step?" one asked. "Can you replicate this model?" recommended another. "Yes," Samuel exclaimed. "With Mia's story as the foundation, we'll structure programs across various communities, fostering empowerment. Imagine an entire network of leaders, each a testament to resilience." The atmosphere surged with excitement. For the first time, Samuel could see the investors starting to share possibilities. They weren't just viewing numbers, they were envisioning impact. Amidst the newfound energy, the critic from before raised an eyebrow and leaned forward. "I have to admire this setup you're working towards, Samuel. But it takes a village. Can you sustain this when things don't go to plan?" Samuel stepped closer, his voice steady. "Absolutely. We've set up contingency plans, and we're collaborating with local organizations to ensure we adapt and respond. We're driving a movement, not merely a business." The critic nodded slowly, impressed despite themselves. Within the room, the once skeptical faces began to reflect understanding and ambition. Ideas bounced off one another like fireworks. Plans turned tangible as conversations about mentorship, expansive workshops, and community events blossomed. Everyone leaned into the vision Samuel and Mia had painted, a vision built on community, trust, and the willingness to rise together. Still, there was one last component to address. "Am I seeing commitment here?" Michael asked, excitement reframing his doubts. Mia smiled brightly. We're ready. This is our moment. Jenna stepped in. I believe we can make this work, aligning resources to ensure efficiency. With everyone's collaboration, we can not only survive, but thrive. The room filled with electrifying consensus. Everyone could see it. This was more than a venture, it was a movement. The tide had indeed turned, and now the dramatic earthquake faded into mere background noise, the low rumble of uncertainty turning into a steadfast chorus of determination. Samuel's heart soared. With sparks flying all around, he stepped further into the fray, gripping the anticipation surging through each person present. Let us do this together, empower our communities, change lives, and forge futures we can be proud of. As applause erupted, echoing throughout the room, Samuel knew this was just the beginning. They had ignited something greater than themselves. It was a family of thriving ideas colliding into one. He turned to Mia, her bright eyes reflecting pride and strength. They had both laid the groundwork, intertwined to form something beautiful, a legacy that transcended their individuality. Together, they were unstoppable, and as the evening waned, Samuel couldn't help but reflect on how far he had come. The darkness that once surrounded him had vanished, replaced by a resounding light. This wasn't just triumph over adversity. It was a commitment to carry this fire forward, to not just chase dreams but to build a future worth living. But wait! You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss our next exciting chapter. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread these inspiring transformations. Don't wait not even one more second to share this journey with at least 5 friends who need to believe in hope and resilience. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending.